Moving on, open part of the medulla. It's form the lower part of the floor of fourth ventricle. We have initially discussed, like in one posterior we look at this is, and this is the medulla, and here is forming the fourth ventricle. This is fourth ventricle, and going upward. This is the closed portion, and this is open, and this is forming floor of fourth ventricle. Okay, now moving on the internal structure. Internal structure of medulla oblongata. As in the spinal cord, it has the gray matter surrounded by the white matter, but cannot proper into the nuclei. What happened in the medulla? Like this is our spinal cord, and there is a gray matter of the butterfly shape, and it's going upward. In the spinal cord, it's like always stay as a butterfly shaped, but when come in the medulla, it's broken down this nucleus in the medulla portion of it's understand. Now moving on the internal structure, we have understand, like when we cut its four location, transverse section of four, like at the level of this decussation of pyramid, and then another one is at the level of this decussation of medial lemniscus. Then the third one is level of olive, at level of olives. Then at the end, at the level of inferior to the pons, just inferior to the pons. We have cutting in this fourth location, and we look the what there is. Like when we look in this image, like we are going to cutting like this one, A, B, C and D. These are the four locations. Moving on this, and we are going to discuss these are all four, and they're the what on that, like level. I have at the level, then we have discussed what the cavity present, and that then I have represented what the nuclei we can look. Then I have present like what the motor tract and what the sensory tract. Moving on this division. So when we look at the level of decussation of pyramid, there is a cavity like central canal called central canal. And when we look at the nuclei, there is just there are nuclei like nucleus gracilis, then nucleus cuneatus, then nucleus of spinal nucleus of the trigeminal nerve, spinal nucleus of cranial nerve 5, and then there is accessory nucleus, accessory nucleus. Moving on the motor tract, there are the tract present in this level. There is a decussation of cortico spinal tract, spinal and tract, and pyramids present. Moving on the sensory, there is a lot of sensory like spinal tract of cranial of 5, then there is posterior spinocerebellar tract, posterior spinocerebellar tract, then is lateral spinothalamic, then anterolateral, anterior spinocerebellar tract are present at this location. Now we are moving at the another level, like the level of decussation of medial lemnisci. At the cavity, there is a present of central canal, and there is a nucleus, some nucleus like we can discuss, like nucleus gracilis also present, nucleus gracilis cuneatus, nucleus cuneatus. Then there is a spinal nucleus of 5, cranial of 5, then accessory nucleus, then there is hypoglossal nucleus present, and when we look for the cavity, there is when we look for the motor, there is a pyramids are present. And for the sensory, there are a lot of sensory, like there is decussation of medial lemnisci. Then there is fasciculus gracilis, cuneatus is fasciculus cuneatus. Then there is like a spinal tract of cranial nerve 5 or trigeminal nerve. Then posterior spinocerebellar tract, posterior spinocerebellar tract. Then there is lateral spinothalamic tract and anterior spinothalamic tract. There is lateral spinothalamic tract, and then anterior spinocerebellar tract, tract. These are the pyramids. These are the sensory tract at the level of this. This is the different level. Now moving on the different level, and at the level of olive or inferior cerebral peduncle, cerebellar peduncle. At this there is the forming cavity like fourth ventricle present. Then when we move for the nucleus, there is a lot of nucleus like inferior olivary nucleus. Then there is a spinal nucleus of cranial nerve 5. Then there is vestibular nucleus, vestibular nucleus, and glossopharyngeal nucleus. There is also vagal nucleus for vagus nerve. And then there is hypoglossal nucleus. Then nucleus ambiguous present, and nucleus of saltorius, nucleus of tractus saltorius, solitarius present. These are the nucleus. Then we move for the sensory tract. There is a lot of sensory tract like medial, longitudinal, medial longitudinal fasciculus, tecto-spinal tract. Then there is medial lemniscus and spinal tract of cranial nerve 5. Then there is lateral spinothalamic tract. Then there is anterior spinocerebellar tract. These are the some. This is the ascending tract, descending, and this is descending tract. Nucleus we have discussed. Now moving on the image based. So moving on the, this is the pyramidal desiccation level. So we have discussed like ascending tract or sensory tract. Sensory, in the sensory there is a posterior, there is a fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus. When we look for the spinocerebellar tract, there is a dorsal spinocerebellar, and this is the dorsal spinocerebellar, and this is a ventral spinocerebellar tract. When we look, and there is also presence of lateral spinothalamic tract. For the descending tracts, for the motor, we have discussed at the level of pyramidal discussion, there is a lateral, and there is a lateral corticospinal tract, and there is a pyramidal like corticospinal tract. These are the corticospinal tract. For when look for the nucleus, so there is a nucleus. This is the nucleus gracilis nucleus. This is nucleus gracilis, and this is nucleus cuneatus. From ascending tract, from this tract there is a gracilis and cuneatus fibers, are coming and giving this nucleus to the fiber, terminating in this fiber, and from that there is the origination of the others. And there is this is the spinal nucleus or spinal nucleus and tract of the trigeminal nucleus. These are the nucleus of the trigeminal nerve or fifth nerve. Then we also discussed like motor nucleus. There is a spinal nucleus of 11th cranial nerve is coming from here, and there is a supraspinal nucleus of the C1. This is the C1 nerve. C1 spinal nerve, like it is for the spinal nerves. These are the spinal nerves. Spinal nerves nucleus. And when we look, this is the disc equation. At the level of disc equation, this is the disc equation from this to the another type is going from this another direction, left to right, right to left. There is a fiber as passing through from lateral corticospinal to the coming in the corticospinal tract in the pyramids. And here is the reticular formation. This is seen this type of reticular formation. Now moving on the transverse section of the medulla at the level of sensory distribution. This is sensory distribution, and when we look, here is the sensory neurons, sensory fibers, axons are distributing, and at this level we can look. This is forming distribution of the medial lemniscus, like it is formed. After that, there is a medial lemniscal system. Fibers are formed from this nucleus. This is gracilis nucleus, gracilis. This is cuneatus nucleus, and from here there is a nerve fiber originates, and these forms like medial lemniscal system. And from that we can look in the middle. Here is the medial longitudinal fasciculus. This is the medial longitudinal fasciculus, and this is the both nucleus are the hypoglossal nucleus. And here is the central canal. In discussion we have discussed there is a cavity regarding there is a central canal, and that is the entero. When we look at ascending tracts or sensory, there is the enterocerebral tract, and this nucleus. This nucleus is the inferior olivary nucleus, and from here is the also posterior spinocerebral tract for ascending, and this is the lateral spinothalamic tract. This is the lateral spinothalamic tract. These are the ascending or sensory. Again looking, there is a trigeminal nerve nucleus and tract. This, and also we can look, this is the ambiguous nucleus. This is at the level of, and when look, this is the posterior median sulcus. This is anterior median sulcus. This is posterior median sulcus, and this is anterior median sulcus, and it is level of the medulla of the sensory discussion. This is the sensory discussion. Now moving on the level of olives. This is the mid level of the olives, or inferior to the pons. You can look, and this is the middle of the olive. This is the superior to the olive or inferior to the pons. Now first discuss the middle of the olives, or at the level of the olives. This is the pyramid, and this nucleus is called arcuate nucleus. And when we look from posterior to the anterior, and there is a posterior region, there is a forming of the cavity of the fourth ventricle we have discussed, and this fourth ventricle, and this nucleus is the for the hypoglossal nucleus, and this is the vagus nucleus. At that lateral there is vagus nucleus, and after that this nucleus is the solitary nucleus, and this nucleus is the medial vestibular nucleus, and here is the inferior medullary velum. This is the roof of this cavity, velum, inferior medullary velum. And this is the medial longitudinal fasciculus. This is the tectospinal tract. This is tectospinal tract, and this is medial lemniscus. From here there is a passing of the after the nucleus the fiber come from the gracilis and cutaneous, passing from that this region. This is called medial lemniscus. And after that, this is the lateral spinothalamic tract. And when you look in the lateral side, there is the anterior spinocerebellar tract. Anterior spinocerebellar tract from the spinal to the cerebellum. And this nucleus is known as the nucleus ambiguous. And this all and this is inferior. These fibers are the inferior cerebral peduncles. From that here the passing the inferior cerebral peduncles, and this is the inferior olivary nucleus at the level of olive. This is olivary nucleus, and from that, from both olivary and the anterior side pyramid, there is a passing of the hypoglossal or cranial nerve tubule passing, and from this region there is the there is the passing of the vagus nerve. Moving on the at the pons level, so again there is the inferior olivary nucleus. There is this is the anterior cochlear nucleus, and this is the spinal tract and the nucleus trigeminal 5, and this is inferior peduncle cerebellum, and this is the posterior cochlear nucleus. There is the anterior cochlear nucleus and posterior cochlear nucleus, and this is the medial vestibular nucleus. This is medial vestibular nucleus coming from the coming from the ear. This is also from ear. This is also from ear, and it come in the proper come in the pons. And this is the hypoglossal nerve, hypoglossal nucleus. These are the dorsal vessel nucleus, and here we can look. There is a cavity of the fourth ventricle, and here is the roof inferior medullary velum. This is the medial longitudinal. This is the medial longitudinal fasciculus. This is tectospinal tract, and this is the medial lemniscus. I think all of the above, all this section we have covered, and this is the lateral spinothalamic tract. Moving on the nucleus, I have written in this chart everything, and I have also presented through the image. Now moving on the cranial nucleus, which found in this medulla region. What are the cranial nucleus present in the medulla? Cranial nuclei, nerve nuclei. In the cranial, there is a hypoglossal nucleus. We have hypoglossal nuclei. Then another one is the nucleus of solitary structures. Nucleus of solitary tract. Then another one is dorsal nucleus of vagus. We can see in the medulla, and also there is a nucleus ambiguous. Then the spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. Spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. This all the nucleus present in the medulla, and we have also briefly discussed regarding this nucleus. This like hypoglossal nucleus. It is the elongated column and consisting of motor cell, and it is beneath the hypoglossal trigon in the floor of fourth ventricle. Like we look in this image, there is a floor of fourth ventricle, and from fourth ventricle there is inside that, and at the close portion of medulla. I think it's enough to the nucleus. What the nucleus is present. Regarding nucleus solitary tract, this nucleus have the function of general and special visceral afferent nuclei. This is regarding the nucleus, and it lies dorsal to the gray matter, closer to the medulla. Like this is nucleus solitary. Here is present have general basal afferent and somatic special visceral afferent, and it is present in this region. I think